She has won the Moth Story Slam. You may have heard her on Risk. And she's just a delight. Please give it up for Bridget O'Neil.
So, it was 1997. I was 25 years old, and it was St. Patrick's Day. And I was living in Philadelphia, and my boyfriend was living in New York. He had just moved to New York like 2 months prior because he needed to finish up his degree. See, he went to college but never finished it. He dropped out. He claimed it was just too much partying in Harlem, which I totally identify with, and I think that's why we had so much in common. But so there he was, and then there I was. So I was going to visit him on St. Patrick's Day, and that was kind of like our holiday. There was Christmas, there was Valentine's Day, and then there was St. Patrick's Day. Now, when I met Frank, I was 23 years old. He was gorgeous. He was tall, blue eyes, blonde hair with a little like swoosh, very new wave swoosh, and kind of preppy, but he had like a very dark side to him too, so that kind of intrigued me. And I was tall, blonde, a little bit of a swoosh, blue eyes, but I was more punky, so he was more like Morrissey, I was more like Debbie Gibson. And I blame my black bowler hat for the punky part of the Debbie Gibson. But, so anyway, so we met, we fell in love quickly and madly. We had a couple things in common. The main ones were our love for the Smiths, and Rand books, and John Hughes films. So, you know, if you have those three things, you got it going on. So anyway, this was my first true love, guys. Like, I loved him. Like, we were gaga goo goo, kaja goo goo. So we were like, so here I am, and let me explain a couple of other things about why our relationship was kind of ironic. Okay, I am, and I know Irish people out there right now are going to be so annoyed with me, but like I am 100% Irish American. But I'm second generation, so both my grandparents on both sides are all from different parts of Ireland. So I was very prideful of that, I loved it. And so now Frank, on the other hand, was 100% British. That's why we got along really well. He was so interesting, and the reason it was so ironic that he was British and I was Irish was he was more into being Irish than I was. He grew up in a predominantly Irish Catholic neighborhood. He went to public school. He asked his mother to transfer him to parochial school. Mother was perplexed, but did so. He also didn't stop there. He held mass in his basement. And for communion, he gave up stale Wonder Bread. It's creepy. So he had that going on. And so it's not surprising that he inevitably went to Fordham University, which is a completely Jesuit school for a nice Brit. So there's that, and then there's me. So we have like these weird, odd, like similarities because I grew up in a very predominantly Jewish neighborhood, and all of my friends were Jewish, and I went to public school. I was the only one of my cousins that did not go to Catholic school. My mom's like, "You're going to public school, nuns, you know." She has some hard times. So we went to public school, and I had a lot of Jewish friends, and I remember going to my friend Heather's house, one of my best friends at the time, and we went back to her house, and she introduced me to her parents. We were having dinner, and her mother, Roz Kravitz, said to me, "So Bridget, what's your last name?" And I said, O'Neil Stein? And the reason it took me a long time to say O'Neil Stein, because I was about to say O'Neil Berg. I needed something that was going to sound like legit. And she said, "I find that hard to believe." She's my like BFF on Facebook right now, by the way. So basically we had this shared common kind of like wanting to assimilate in our neighborhoods. So anyway, there I was on New Jersey Transit, got on at Princeton, going to see my man. So it's been about 2 months since he went to New York. So he moved from Philadelphia to New York to finally finish his last semester at Fordham as an English lit major. So there I was going out to visit him. He called me that day, "Can't wait to see you, come on out, blah, blah, blah." I go out, totally excited, can't wait for that pint of Guinness with a little clover shaped into it. I'm super stoked. The other thing about Frank that I found was really funny was when we would go to Irish pubs and put in like genuine like Irish music, he knew all the words to the Pogues and the Wolf Tones. I grew up with Irish music in my grandfather's basement, and the only thing I knew was Danny Boy, and that was it. But he knew everything. So he picks me up at Penn Station. He looks wonderful. He takes my bag and my hand, and we go to the one train, and we go off to Tribeca, where his loft is, and I'm still kind of dreamy, you know, he's my man. So we get there, and I'm like, what are we gonna do first? He's like, we're gonna go back to the loft. I thought we were gonna go straight to O'Flannery's. No, we're gonna go back to the loft, and I said, okay, good, we're gonna see like his 6 roommates, they're super crazy, it gets wild. So we get there, and we walk into the very drafty, cold, dark loft that is New York. And at that time, I hated New York. I was Philly. There's a thing there. Fuck New York. It was kind of like there's a thing. So I was there, and I was like, but, you know, I'm in it. It's fun. Go inside. His roommates were not there. There was no music blaring. There was our friend Mike and 2 Australian girls. And the one Australian girl was sitting on Mike's lap, so she was taken. The other one looked very perplexed about my entrance, actually, as I was of her being there. So I started eyeing her and kind of looking at her like, let me make sense of this before I freak out. Like Philly style. So let me just like take it all in, maybe I'm going to overreact, maybe this is being silly, I don't know. All of a sudden, like, so I start focusing on the TV, right? So I'm watching March Madness, it's basketball. Frank is crazy about March Madness. If you try to change a channel during March Madness, he will flip his shit. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So then the girl, and I'm not gonna do a good Australian accent, it sounds British, but she's like, can we change the channel? This is like so boring. Yeah, that sounds British. I kind of like turn and look at him, like I'm about to eye him and start laughing, like, oh my God, he's gonna go ape shit right now. And he goes, yeah, sure, yes, no, whatever you need to do. Can I replenish your drink? I'm like, oh, ooh, this is not good. So he's replenishing ladies' drink, being a total gentleman, because he's a gentleman. And there I am, not asking what I want, what I need. I feel completely ignored. I feel uncomfortable. I feel like I encroached on the date. This is my boyfriend. So then I'm sitting there. I'm like, this feels wrong. So with that, I was being kind of rude to the woman that was asking for drinks for my boyfriend. She drapes herself over him, and she's like, so Frank, where were you this whole time, and who's this? Oh. And I'm like, wow. And no, I'm sorry, she says, and who's the ice princess? Oh. And I was like, are you kidding me? Well, he says, instead of saying, oh, this is my girlfriend Bridget, he goes, this is Bridget. Oh. That hurt. So that's when I knew, okay, things are not good. So I stormed off, he grabbed my hand, pulled me to the kitchen and said, Bridge, calm down, don't make a scene. Lower your voice, I need to tell you something. We were all at O'Flannery's having a drink. Me and Mike met these girls. This was all before I called you. And by the way, this was 1997, so there was no cell phones. There was no cell phones. He called me on my landline. So when he went to change his mind after he met the ladies, he couldn't just call me back or text me back or IM me or embarrass me in other way, whatever the fuck you need to do right now. No, there was none of that. So it's like you show up and this is what happens. So there I was, and I was just fuming. So I ran into his bedroom, got my coat, grabbed it off the bed, and I remember thinking in my head, like, this is the last time I'm going to see his bedroom. And I looked around, and I was angry, but I was sad. It was almost like the inevitable end of, I knew this was going to happen. We were in 2 different cities. Looked around, and I looked at the futon, which I bought him at Christmas so he didn't have to sleep on the floor. The dresser with a framed photograph of us, and then next to our framed photograph was the fountainhead, which I just automatically just wanted to puke at. But, so there was that, which he read annoyingly and consistently. So I walked out and I said, that's it, I'm done. I started flying down the steps, At the time I smoked, I pulled out a cigarette. I was walking out to the March air, and I was like, I'm gonna pass out. Like, everything just washed over me. I was so sad. I was so upset. It was just like shock. It's a shock to your heart. It's your first love, and it just feels like someone just punched you in your heart, in your gut, and your heart's lying on the ground. So I ran out, and I'm of course like fumbling with a cigarette, and there's Frank behind me chasing me down the road. He says, "Oh, Bridget, you can't go by yourself. Let me take you back." I'm like, "You are such a gentleman to take me back. That's so nice of you. But I'd rather you did not take me back." So there he was, like, "Oh, you know, I'm proper," running down the street, and I'm just like doing everything to get away from him. Everything, like I couldn't want to get away from anyone else more in my life than him. So I get to the one at Chambers, and I'm running down the steps at this point, and I hear him saying, "Bridget, wait, just wait, stop, Bridget, stop." And me being very Scorpio and Irish, I'm like, "Fuck you, stop for nothing, you fucking bastard." Like, just raging. But something told me to stop because my heart did, right? I'm human. And I felt like I was in a rom-com at the airport, and he drove his car all the way over to the airport. Didn't go through security, but found me in the airport. You know how it goes. So I'm like, it's that moment in the rom-com at the airport, and Bridget, wait. I'm down the steps, I got my cigarette. He grabs my hand, and I'm like, oh God, thank God he came to realization. He's gonna apologize. My heart feels so much better. I look up, my nose is running, my eyes are red, and I just look at him and I just go, "What?" And he says, "Bridge, you can't smoke down there." So, not what I expected. Not that PC, especially in '97 when you're smoking, you don't kind of care. But that's what he had to say to me. Okay, so I went through the turnstile, and I got in, and I sat down on the one, and I took a breath, and I looked down like, "Be calm, hold this in until you get to New Jersey Transit, because who gives a shit about that New Jersey Transit? I can just like slobber and cry all over myself, but just be cool right now, you're in New York." So I sit down, and I'm on the one, and I just look down like trying so much to hold it in, and I look up, and there's Frank, sitting across from me on the train. And I'm like thinking, are you kidding me? You're being a gentleman. Because he wanted to take me back to Penn Station to escort me back home because he's such a gentleman. If that wasn't bad enough, I looked at his hands, and in his lap, he had the fountainhead. The bastard thought about bringing some reading material back for the trip. Oh, when I get back out there, I might be a little bit bored looking for some reading material. I think everything hit at that point was just like, this is over, I'm done. I got back on the New Jersey Transit, just less than an hour from where I was, with all these Irish revelers, and thinking, God, you fucking people are just probably 6th generation Irish, acting like you're right off the fucking boat. I'm off the fucking boat. Now you fucking know it. I fucking hated St. Patty's Day. I fucking hated Frank, and I fucking hated Ayn Rand. Thank you.
Yum's the word